Hey guys, welcome back to TheSorryGirls. If you are new here, my name is Rachel and on this channel we do all things DIY and design. And today we're gonna be testing some viral TikTok DIYs that are both beautiful feature wall art pieces, and we're gonna see if they're gonna live up to our expectations. Guys, I don't even know if this looks good. I gotta take a step back.
Like half of this didn't even get dipped.
She made it look like she used a little.
Okay. I'm just not sure.
I also have one more DIY technique that I want to show you guys at the end that I personally haven't seen yet, but maybe it has virality. Maybe it has viral potential. Anyway, let's begin. Virality. So the first viral TikTok we're gonna try is this mirror by an account called Creative by DIY. And they made this really neat sort of stone looking oblong frame for it. And it's really beautiful, but I think we can make some adjustments on the technique. The main material that we're gonna need for this project is paper mache. Let me grab it. Now this isn't just any old homemade paper mache. This is a paper mache product, which I actually have never used before, so I'm super excited to try it, but it's really cool because it's gonna give us the stone effect without any use of plaster or anything, because we're definitely in an oblong stone plaster era right now. I think we all can agree. So I'm gonna put this aside for now, and we are gonna start with our mirror. I found my mirror at the thrift store. So my mirror is about 16 by 20 inches, and that is roughly the same size as the mirror that they originally used. And I think that they got theirs from IKEA, except mine is about half the price and reused. So just saying. Okay, so I actually want to add a couple steps before we begin with the original TikTok's steps. So I'm gonna bring out a piece of cardboard because we're gonna make the shape of the frame on there. And this way I can play around with the shape and it'll be easier to mount onto the mirror after. And first I'm just tracing the size of my mirror onto this piece of cardboard so I know how big I want the frame to be. Now I really just want to make sure that the inside of my frame doesn't extend outside of the existing mirror. So we're gonna make sure we draw it inside. And I'm just gonna mess around with it until I'm happy with this shape. I also know that I want to maximize the surface area of the mirror, but I also definitely want an oblong shape. So this can be kind of tricky because we're working with such blunt corners. So you may have noticed that some of the mirror corner is creeping out of our frame here. I'm actually going to take this a step further and cut off the corners with a glass cutter. This is completely optional, but first we're going to cut out this shape. Oh man, it's hard to cut. This is supposed to be more satisfying looking. This is real. This is me. So I actually doubled up our cardboard just to strengthen any of the seams, but it's getting a little bit too hard to cut, so I'm gonna switch to an X-Acto blade. Oh yeah. Woo! Feel free to use scissors, but I really think this was the move. Great. Let's just reinforce these. So here I have a pistol grip glass cutter, and this is super optional. You could just make a shape that does cover the corners. Becky also made this really cool sort of oblong shaped mirror that she duped from Firm Living, and she goes in depth on how to use one of these. So if you are gonna do this, you can check out that video. Okay, so the corners are cut. I'm gonna get this out of the way for now. I'm gonna grab our frame, and here I have some recycled newspaper and packing paper, and this is what we're gonna use to now bulk up our lovely cardboard piece. And I'm just gonna use some regular old masking tape, and I'm just wrapping the tape all the way around the cardboard. So it's all taped up and the frame is looking really good. Every time I did one of the chunks, I actually made it a little bit wider than the frame itself, so we get these nice rounded edges. So for the next step, it looks like they've put wet paper towel over top of this, but I'm assuming it's not just wet paper towel. So I'm gonna make a paper mache OG mixture with glue and water. And I was trying to look up what the ratio for a paper mache mixture is, and the opinions on the internet vary. So if you know what the real ratio should be, let me know in the comments down below. But for this, we're gonna do a 2-to-1 ratio. So 2 parts glue, 1 part water. So I just have this elevated on some scrap wood here, and I am simply laying these pieces over, smoothing it out as I go. Okay, so now that we have mummified our frame, it's looking really good. I definitely would squeeze out any excess glue water, otherwise this will take a really long time to dry. But while this dries, let's move on to our paper mache mixture. So the ratio here is 1 pound of the paper mache product to 32 ounces of water, which is equivalent to 4 cups. And you're going for a stiff dough consistency. You can add water if you need, but just make sure there are no dry spots. So the base is fully dry, and now I'm just going to put this paste onto our structure. And I definitely don't want to go too thick with this stuff. I feel like you could skip the paper mache product and just keep layering with the paper towel and glue mixture, or whatever paper mache method you prefer. I was just really excited to try the paper mache product, so I decided to stick with it, and I also felt like it might give a more expensive look in the end. So once it was covered, I went in with a small amount of water rubbed between my hands and just tried to smooth it out some more by pressing into it. And now I just need to let the paper mache dry for 24 hours. Okay, so it's been overnight. I think this is still a bit wet. So I'm gonna put this aside for now, and we're gonna come back to it later on in the video. It's staying together though, so that's good news. So now I want to move on to our second viral DIY, and this one is by Kaylee May. And what they did is they took some large sheet of fabric, dipped it in plaster, and laid it over some large canvases and created this really cool sort of drapery wall art. The materials we're going to need for this project is some plaster of Paris. I still need some canvases and a large sheet of fabric, so I think let's go to the thrift store and see if we can find some secondhand options. Okay, so the first thrift store I tried didn't have any canvases that were as large as I would have liked them to be, so I ended up trying another thrift store. I went to my local Restore, and I ended up finding 2. I actually found 4, and I was really tempted to buy all 4 of them, but I bought 2 really large canvases. I think they're almost 3 feet by 3 feet each, and I got them for $25 a pop, which is literally a fraction of what I would have paid in store to get a canvas that size new. So that's a big win. They do have art on them already, but that is not a problem because when we get back to the office, I'm going to show you guys how we're going to deal with that. Look how big! These are amazing. So also on my way home from the thrift store, I picked up this, and this is gesso. It is an artist's medium used to prep canvases typically. You can also use it to cover old art on canvases, that way you can reuse them, and so that's what we're gonna do with ours. This whole tub costs about $25, and we definitely will only be using a small fraction of it. I think you can get smaller ones, but we are still spending a lot less than if we bought the canvases new. So let's prep our workstation for painting. I'm just applying the gesso with a large paintbrush to save time. Okay, So the gesso is pretty much dry. It only takes about an hour. It is a moment of truth to dip this sheet in some plaster. And this is a for sure trust the process moment. But they say it works, so we're gonna find out. Let's mix some plaster. The ratio is 2 parts plaster to 1 part water. You're looking for a creamy consistency, and it's really important to get the ratio correct here. If you have too much water, the mix will take an extra long time to reach its creamy stage and then all of a sudden set overly fast. And I think that's where I went wrong the first time with this, but anyway, you don't know that yet, so just keep watching.
I don't know why this feels so wrong. Let's just do this, I guess.
Okay, so first I mixed 4 cups to 2 cups of water, and that definitely wasn't enough for a king-size bed sheet. It also started clumping really quickly. So anyway, just mix some more, and I'm just gonna dip again.
She made it look like she's so little. And it's like already getting hard. Guys.
So this is what we're working with. And I'm just gonna get this chunk on now. I'm kind of like, we're worried about the rest of the blanket after.
Like half of this didn't even get dipped. And then it's sticking to the most random parts. It will work.
Guys, I don't even know if this looks good. I gotta take a step back.
That corner's Let's mix some more plaster. Okay, I'm just not sure. Is it my water? Do I not have enough water? Okay, so I think I know, now that I'm nearing the end of this, what I would have done differently. So we're gonna let this set up for a bit, and then you and I are gonna go have a little chat.
Okay, so I needed to step away from the project because it definitely like half worked, but I definitely also think I could make some adjustments on my technique. First off, I think I started with way too much fabric. I started off with a king size bed sheet and I thought the more fabric, the merrier, but you definitely only need about double the height or the width, whichever way you're draping it, and then enough to just wrap around the edges to the backside. Once things started going a little awry with the first attempt, I ended up changing the original design plan and I used less fabric for the second attempt. And instead of going for like the drapery across both, I wanted to go for more of like a messy bed sheet look. But I just couldn't seem to get past the crumbling. So I wasn't loving this corner. It got a little dry and chunky before I was able to mix more plaster. And now I've made a plaster turd. And I know why. The plaster of Paris has a working time of 6 to 10 minutes, so after you get that initial dip, you maybe have 5 minutes to lay it on the canvas the way that you like, and after that, do not touch it, or try your best not to move it too much. I need to emphasize that this is a very time-sensitive medium and project. But it works, so don't worry. To ensure you have it laid out initially the way that you would like it, I definitely would have done this project with 2 people, which is something that they were doing in the original TikTok, but I totally overlooked that aspect. It's still a bit unclear how much plaster you need for the initial dip. So for next time, I probably would just go for less because no matter what, you get to add more plaster on top afterwards. And that's when you start getting this smooth kind of stone Renaissance statue effect. Because of how quickly it sets up, you definitely want to work in small batches, like no more than 2 to 4 cups max. And this is another reason why 2 people would be really helpful for this because while one person is mixing, the other person is laying, and repeat. Once your mix starts pilling, which is that crumbly consistency I mentioned, it's done. Just mix some more. One product that I found online that I probably would have liked to use for this is a plaster retarder. I know, it is not the nicest sounding words, but a retarder will slow the chemical crystal formation that causes conventional plasters to harden, which will allow more time to complete the job, especially if you're trying this at a larger scale. And if any of you have completed this project or you have experience with plasterwork, please leave me some comments. Let me know if I'm onto something here or if you have other tips for all of us. Thank you, please, I need them. Now that they're dry, and despite some minor technicalities, they actually look really good. The sheet is somewhat sticking to the back. It actually just sort of feels like a hug, so I'm not sure if it's gonna be secure over time. So I just flipped them over and ended up adding some staples into the back side of the frame. And I went over some areas with more plaster until I was finished with the box, just to smooth over any areas that had more of a crumbly look. Overall, I think I used 3 to 4 containers of plaster of Paris, and it's not that it didn't work, it's just that hopefully I'm making all the mistakes here so that you don't have to at home. And now that they're finished, let's take a closer look at these beautiful plaster works of art. Since we're here and chatting already, let's circle back to the mirror because it was a total success. I love the way it looks, and because it's paper mache, it's actually really lightweight and still really sturdy. So I'm very pleased with that, and I think in the end, I only needed about 1 to 2 pounds of the paper mache product. This wasn't in the original steps, but I wanted to try sanding it to see if we could deal with some of the texture and bring it somewhat closer to a really smooth stone consistency, and it definitely helped. It's not perfect, but it helped. Also not in the original steps, but I think would be a good option is to paint it afterwards to sort of seal it off, and any sort of acrylic based paint would work. Now to assemble it, I went in with some Mirror, which is a mirror safe industrial strength adhesive to glue the frame onto the mirror. And I just traced roughly the inside of the mirror with a dry erase marker so I knew where I could put the glue and still account for any squeeze out. And just so that we can mount it on the wall to finish it off, I screwed some D-rings onto the back of a scrap piece of thin plywood. After I let the frame set to dry for a while, I just used the same mirror adhesive to glue that piece onto the back. And now it's time to see how it looks up on the wall. Now that we're done with both those wall art techniques, I have one final technique that I want to try. It's really simple and easy, and it's actually adding texture to a print of a painting to make it feel like a painting instead of a print. You can do this with any print of any size, obviously preferably a print of a pre-existing painting because we're going for that authentic look, but without the price tag. So I don't know if you know this already, but the Met Museum has an online free use image archive where you can access and download thousands of pictures of art and paintings from literally every historic era. So you want to click on Open Access, Met Collection, and you can put whatever filters you want on it. So I'm going to add paintings and most recent era. And then I'm also gonna add still life. Obviously you can pick whatever you want, but they have so many images to choose from. Look at this, summer flowers. This is a picture from 1880. It is oil on canvas, and I actually already have it printed. Surprise, surprise, right here. To get the textured effect that we're going for, I'm gonna go in with this gel medium. Now this one is a heavy gel medium in a gloss finish, and I found this at my local craft store. With a stiff bristled, sort of wiry brush, I'm just painting the gel on in thin layers, creating a sort of cross-hatched pattern, flipping my brush back and forth to mimic the oil paint. And then once I started to get to the more detailed areas, I just followed the brush strokes of the original painting. Okay, so I'm just over halfway finished, and I want to let it dry for a little bit so I could show you guys a really obvious side-by-side comparison of the texture that we're adding. I think this looks so good. I'm really happy with the outcome, and I'm just going to finish up the second half.
Oh wow, yeah,
Like
it looks
certain
like a painting.
angles. So
And I feel like once it's like framed, it's gonna look really good.
Okay, I am just finishing up here, and this technique honestly kind of feels like a game changer. Once this is dry, I'm going to glue it onto a board and put it into a frame, and let's check it out styled. Okay, I love how this last DIY turned out, and I know it was the only one that wasn't already a viral TikTok, but I really think it has viral potential, and the world needs to know this hack. So if you're watching this, I've already posted it on TikTok. You can find us there at TheSorryGirls, and definitely consider giving us a follow, because we post there every day. Overall, I am very pleased with these wall art techniques. They are total statement pieces on a budget, and hopefully I was successful in guiding you guys with some more in-depth instructions on how you can achieve them at home, and let me know which one of these you would try. If you enjoyed this video, check out this other time when Kelsey put some more viral TikToks to the test.
After working endlessly on the tiled table, she enjoyed this slow-paced DIY and took her time with it. Lady Kelsey thought to herself,
This is fun.